Yo, what up? It's Aaron Moses. Gang, what do we have here, man? This video is a reaction to kids in the cartel are more dangerous than you think. Let's get into it, gang.
He told me that he was a bandit. So a man who gives you love every day tells you he's a bandit. It's difficult to judge him.
Pablo Escobar, El Chapo, El Mayo. These are notorious kingpins that left an empire as well as a world of pain and bloodshed behind them. But what about their children? Did they continue their legacy? Can a criminal be a model to his son? The most famous cartel kingpins grew up in extreme poverty. It was the catalyst for their lust for power and money. But their children grew up rich, surrounded by piles of cash. How did this impact their involvement in the narcotics trade?
I mean, it's pretty obvious what the theme of this video is, but of course, man, every little boy wants to be just like their dad, so they start wilding out in that same fashion. But let's get back into it.
Let's explore the lives of the most notorious drug lords' children. This is Vicente Zambada Niebla. Vicente is the son of El Mayo, real name Ismael Zambada. El Mayo took over the Sinaloa cartel after the demise of El Chapo, and to this day, he is a wanted man. It's even thought that El Mayo threw El Chapo under the bus so that he could rule the Sinaloa cartel. So he is a truly ruthless and feared kingpin. What about his son, though? Vicente knew little outside of violence and ruthlessness, so in his eyes, his dad was the real deal. He wanted to be just like him.
And that's one thing that I never got, bro. Like, you're supposed to protect your children from things like that so they don't, get exposed and end up losing their lives at an early age. What I don't understand, another thing I don't understand is, like, bro, if you're exposing your kids to all of this, why wouldn't you think they would want to rebel against that and do their own thing, like the total opposite?
Of course, El Mayo groomed him from day one. As his eldest son, he would inherit his blood empire. So Vincent learned to coordinate shipments and conduct sketchy deals, using violence when necessary. Kingpins become kingpins because they don't take no for an answer, and their lust for power and blood overrules common sense. But Vicente never knew the hardships of being poor or living on the run.
That's another thing I thought about, like, bro, you didn't actually go through the smoke that your father went through. Like, a lot of these guys grew up in third world conditions, living in the jungle, eating out of trash cans and stuff like that. Like, bro, you're a rich kid. You're gonna get ate up by these people and by your environment. So yeah, now I got the answer to my question.
He was out in the open, living a lavish lifestyle and exposing his riches to the media. So in 2009, he was arrested on Mexican soil.
That's exactly what I was talking about, man. No street smarts. You don't got no game for real like that.
He was extradited to the US and pled guilty to several narcotic shipments as well as ordering assassinations. From prison, he cooperated with the DEA, offering them names and specifics about the Sinaloa cartel in exchange for a reduced sentence. He was one of the main voices who testified against El Chapo. He is now serving a 15-year sentence and has returned $1 billion from his drug profits as part of his plea agreement. Indeed, El Mayo didn't just have one child.
That's another thing I never got about the Mexican and the Italians. Like, how do they get away with, like, cooperating on such an astronomical scale? Not to say that no black people do it, they absolutely do. But I just never got how they just tell so freely and walk around.
This is Serafin Zambada. Although younger than Vicente, El Mayo never sheltered him from the violence of criminal life. From a very young age, Serafin was introduced in the ins and outs of running a cartel. It seems like El Mayo was a great role model for his son, no matter his cruelty. So Serafin became an active part of the Sinaloa cartel from his teenage years. But the cartel is a dog-eat-dog world, and even fathers don't protect their sons in this case. El Mayo remained free while Serafin was arrested and tried for the many crimes of the Sinaloa cartel. In 2014, Serafin was extradited to the United States after being arrested on a warrant in Arizona. There, he pled guilty to conspiracy to bring over 100 kilograms of white powder and 1 ton of pot into the U.S. he returned $250,000 to the government from his narcotics profit. He was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison, but not before he apologized for his behavior.
In this drug business, one hurts a lot of people, and I, Your Honor, regret having been the cause of causing so much damage to many people with the drug business.
What did they get? A United Kingdom aristocrat pledging allegiance to Queen Elizabeth as dude to read and narrate what this nigga wrote to the government. This is hilarious. This is hilarity at its finest. Hell nah, but yeah, let's get back into it.
Here's where it gets interesting. El Chapo, or Joaquin Guzman, didn't just lead the notorious Sinaloa cartel. He also had at least 10 children. That's right, the bloody El Chapo was a family man. Now, he lives in a maximum security prison in the United States. He will never walk out again.
Hey man, you never know. Never say never. Free El Chapo. Alright, let's get back into it. Gang.
So who's in charge of the Sinaloa cartel now? El Mayo, who is a wanted man with a $5 million reward on his head, or El Chapo's trusted sons?
They are known as Los Chapitos, the four most trusted sons of the world's most notorious drug kingpin.
According to the DEA, it's these 4 sons that rule the cartel and are in charge of the largest white powder and amphetamine distribution network between Central America and the US. And Ivan is El Chapo's eldest son, and he's been in charge of transporting white powder to the US and collecting the profits, moving them back to Mexico. But it's not all peaceful transactions. Just like his father, Ivan also uses violence to exterminate rival cartels. In 2019, he led a bloody rescue of his half-brother, Ovidio, from Culiacan, Mexico. Ovidio had been arrested by Mexican police, but Ivan couldn't bear it, so he sent a whole army of sicarios to his rescue.
See, that's another thing I don't get, bro. How are you gonna be this famous, high-in-the-sky, ultimate elite trafficker like this? Like, people know your name, they got your social security number, they got your face, they got you doing all kind of stuff. How do you live every day knowing that 110% you're going to prison for that?
Needless to say, people were killed. Ivan's top priority is protecting his family. His little brother, Edgar, was only 22 when he was killed in a parking lot. Sadly, this is the price families of cartel kingpins sometimes have to pay. As of today, there's a $5 million reward for information leading to Ivan's capture, so he really followed in his father's footsteps. Jesus Alfredo Guzman was born on May 17, 1986. This makes him 3 years younger than his brother Ivan. Much like Ivan, Jesus is on the DEA's top 10 most wanted fugitives list. He's been engaged in trafficking, bribing officials, gun trade, and ordering assassinations and kidnappings. Pretty much all the list of crimes when it comes to cartels. He's one of the cartel's mad dogs, but he's also the brains of the operations. After El Chapo's arrest in 2016, Jesus expanded Sinaloa's operations by building several labs and increasing transportation routes. Jesus and Ivan aren't the only Guzman kids that want a chunk of their father's crime empire. Ovidio and Joaquin, his younger sons, are also wanted for crimes against the US. They have their own narcotics transportation company, and Ovidio oversees trafficking all the way to Australia too. So Los Chapitos, El Chapo's 4 oldest sons, are wanted for trafficking, murder, kidnapping, money laundering, and just about a dozen other charges.
I'm not really trying to judge it harshly from a negative standpoint, just being logical. But, I mean, you do want your children to do better than you, and you want them to have a better life than you, longer, more prosperous, you want them to survive and things like that. But I just don't see somebody handing down a business that you know is going to end their life one day at some point, and people are constantly trying to take their lives and put them behind bars. But it seems like they try to keep it in the family, like on some kingdom type of stuff, like back in the day with the hierarchies and things like that. I just don't see me doing something like that, man. But if this is all you know, if these are the only skills that you can show your children, like, that makes sense. But why not try to get them an education and build a construction company and help the people in a real way escape poverty? I just don't get it. but let's get back to it.
Luckily, the rest of El Chapo's kids seem to be keeping out of trouble. His eldest child, Alejandria, is now a fashion designer in Mexico and stays out of the cartel business.
See, boom, this is exactly what I'm talking about, bro. Like, you got a daughter that's successful. Whole time I'm thinking, bro, I would want my children to be something in the entertainment business or something, because that would give them a lot of clout. Like, I might sacrifice myself to put you on, but I'm not gonna have you following my
Still, she has had a very privileged life, all thanks to her father's blood money. I mean, just look at her mansion. She doesn't seem remorseful about the source of her money, and she even defends her dad online.
I'm beautiful because of my mother, intelligent because of my father, and a murderer because of me.
El Chapo's youngest children, twin daughters Imali and Maria, were born in August 2011. They live a happy and peaceful life with their mother, El Chapo's fourth wife, Emma, in California. Then, of course, there's Pablo Escobar's son, Sebastian, aka Juan Pablo. To everyone else, Escobar was a feared drug lord. At the peak of his criminal career, he made $140 million in cash every day. He also butchered everyone who stood in his way. Sometimes, he even murdered the families of judges and police officers who opposed him. But to Sebastian, Pablo was a loving father.
I was willing to give my life for him. That's how deeply I love him.
Juan Pablo Escobar was born on February 24, 1977, right around the time Escobar had become one of the richest men in the world. But believe it or not, Juan Pablo had no idea just how ruthless and violent his father was until very late in his teenage years, because Pablo did all he could to shelter him and make him see his point of view.
When I was 7 years old, he told me, after he killed the minister, and when we went to Panama, he told me that he was a bandit. So a man who gives you love every day tells you he's a bandit, it's difficult to judge him.
Indeed, there's a lot of mixed messages here. But there was another problem. For Pablo, violence wasn't bad. He never once expressed remorse for his hundreds of murders and thousands of crimes.
And I don't think he expressed any regret at all.
About anything?
About anything. He thought he was doing the right thing.
Whoever your parents are, they're the ones who teach you about the world from their perspective.
Not to compare Pablo Escobar to a comic book character or anything like that, because he's not. He was a real person with real feelings. But if you actually pay attention to comic book characters like Magneto and the supervillains, the other supervillains, Joker, they're actually doing what they think is right. They don't think that they're doing something bad. There's very few comic book characters that are just straight up assholes and they want to, destroy the world for no good reason. They always have a good reason. That's just like what I was going back to what I was saying before. Like, that's all they know. Like, people literally make the best decisions that they can make. Nobody deliberately tries to make like medium or low vibrational decisions. People make decisions based on the highest level of decision-making skills that they have in certain respects, with the highest level of education that they have, whether that be formal or whether that be street education. But yeah, let's get back.
If they teach you murder is okay, you might begin to think that too. But luckily for Juan Pablo, he never entered his father's world. He was only 16 years old in 1993 when Pablo Escobar fell to his death on the rooftop of his aunt's Medellin house after his famous last encounter with the DEA. Only then did Juan Pablo realize the full extent of Escobar's horrific crimes. His first reaction was to threaten to kill those who killed his father. But he didn't really mean those words. He'd never laid a finger on anyone and wasn't going to start now. He was going to protect himself and his family.
In that moment, did you want to kill everyone?
Yeah, in that moment, yes. The 10 first minutes, yes. And that's why 10 minutes after that, I called the press and I tell that I will never do anything to continue my father's steps. And that's the second threat, peace. And that's the only one that I've been living every day since then.
As soon as Escobar was taken down, Juan Pablo, his sister Manuela, and their mother Maria lost all their assets to rival cartels. When they tried to flee from Colombia, no one would sell them plane tickets. United Nations didn't want to help the Escobars either. That's when they charged their families and fled to Argentina. Now they were the Marroquin family, and Juan Pablo took the name Sebastian.
We changed our identities. It was the only way. When we changed our names, the next day we were free.
But it was
That sucks, bro, and it makes a lot more sense. I just don't understand. Again, I don't understand any of this. Why would you not set your family up to win if you're worth $1 billion and you know somebody's gonna smoke you one day or you're gonna do life in prison? But it is what it is, man. I'm not Pablo Escobar, and yeah, that's what happened.
no easy feat for the Marroquins. Sebastian was arrested for money laundering, kidnapping, and blackmailing. He'd done none of these. He was just being arrested for being his father's son. He also lived in poverty, something he'd never experienced before, and something Pablo was desperate to run away from.
It's making more and more sense. I apologize for pausing so much. But it's making more and more sense why they will set their families up to be, you know, the next in line to have that big inheritance of that big name and things like that. Yep, alright, well, now that we understand, let's get back into it.
But it was exactly because of Pablo Escobar that his son lived on the run and in poverty. This is what happens when you make money out of a crime. Slowly, Sebastian got back on his feet. He became an architect and a lecturer. Now he spreads the word about living in Pablo Escobar's shadow and about his father's crimes. He warns people not to idolize him. Before he was a famous kingpin, he was a ruthless criminal.
How many murders is he directly or indirectly responsible for?
Well, there is not an official record of that, but I believe that it is almost about 3,000 people.
There's one last person to talk about. Pablo Escobar's daughter, Manuela. Manuela was born on May 25th, 1984. She was only 9 when Escobar was arrested and killed by the DEA. But by then, she was already aware of the havoc caused by her father's cartel. A rival gang had attempted to take the family's lives with a bomb. It left Manuela deaf in her left ear. So while she got 1 million presents every year, Manuela was used to constantly being afraid and on the run from authorities as well as rival cartels. Still, she is the only member of the Escobar family who has never been arrested or accused of any crime. When the Escobar family changed their names to Marroquin, Manuela took the name Juana. In 1999, Sebastian and Maria were arrested for Pablo Escobar's crimes. Although they were soon released, this sent Juana into extreme bouts of anxiety and depression. Would she ever have a normal life? Or would she pay for her father's sins forever? Sadly, Manuela has even tried to take her own life. She lives with her brother for her own health and safety. Just one example of kingpin children whose lives will forever be affected by their father's greed.
Destroyed,
Hey, thanks for watching. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. See you next time.
Man, that was a very informative video, and it sucks what happens to all the families of the people in the cartel that are affected. So, man, many prayers I'm sending to them. But other than that, man, make sure you like, share, comment below what you want to see next. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys on another video, man. I'm the band, you the band, we the band together, man. It's Aaron Moses, life in the breath, breathe it in. Peace.